I'm joined by Congressman Juan Ciscomani of Tucson, Arizona. Good morning, Congressman. Thank you for joining me this morning.
Good morning, Hugh. Thank you for having me.
It must have been, I hope it was, a sober meeting of Republicans last night. We're on the brink of war. We're sending a second carrier group. The president did not mention Iran or Hezbollah yesterday, but we very well could be in a shooting war there. Was it a sober conference last night?
Well, it was, but first let me say I haven't. A lot happens since the last time that I was on with you, Hugh, and of course in the last week, even more so, and then in the last few days over the weekend with what happened in Israel. I know you've been covering that extensively, and I've made strong statements on my feelings on this. Of course, standing with Israel, standing with the people of Israel, and with our friends and constituents that are here in the United States as well. We have to. Of course, in Congress, act accordingly on that. We support Israel, support their right to defend itself. And what the images that we've been seeing over the weekend are just horrific. As a father myself, I can't imagine the feeling and the sense of what's happening. I've talked to constituents of mine that have family there, and every one that I've talked to, the conversation starts in the somber tone, of course, but then it turns into tears, into anger, into disbelief in a lot of ways, and it's a tragic situation. I feel for them, and I stand with them, and I thank you for covering it like you have been so far. This is I couldn't have imagined a worse time to be in the situation that Congress is in, while our closest ally in the Middle East is going through their worst time as well in recent history. These are
Yeah,
trying
the death
times.
toll went up to 1,200 today, Congressman. I can't conceive of the depth of evil in Gaza that would unleash an army of monsters to just wantonly murder 1,200 people. And I know you've seen the stories of the babies being decapitated and the mothers being, and you're right, you're the father of six. Entire families wiped out. And so it's beyond our capacity to understand. It's a 9/11 like event. So did the conference act accordingly? I mean, this is serious time. They've got to get serious.
These are serious times, and the conference has been going through the process. The two candidates have been seeking the endorsement and support of all members. The process is ongoing. We have, of course, the vote this morning. Again, we'll start with an 8:30 a.m. Security briefing on Israel, and then we're going to move on to selecting a speaker within the conference at 10 a.m. And then we'll see how many rounds it takes for someone to be the clear winner. There are a lot of efforts to make sure that we don't go to the floor without being ready, which of course I want to do. I don't know if setting so many rules around it is the right move either. There's still so many camps, so much anger. There's so much dissatisfaction with what happened just a few days ago, last week with Speaker McCarthy. That not every member is on board with the current direction. So there's still division.
Speaker McCarthy told me on this show on Monday that if the conference deadlocks and it asks him to come back, he would be willing to do so. Is that a possibility in your view, Juan Ciscomani?
Well, what I heard him say yesterday during the conferences, he asked to not be nominated, and his wish was respected, and he wasn't yesterday on the conference floor. Now, again, we have to get one of these two gentlemen to 217, and I'm not sure if that happens in the first ballot or the second ballot within the conference. There's clearly people that are squarely in one camp or the other, and there are people that are in neither camp, and then there are people that are undecided. So it's still a lot to be determined. Hopefully, people slept on it and they have a decision made by this morning. But that's what we're going to face today.
Now, both men are friends of the program. Either of them can do the job. So could McHenry. So could McCarthy. What my urgent message is, we can't be without a speaker in a House that is functioning. Is have
That's
the
exactly
eight who
right.
caused this? Go ahead, Congressman.
No, I agree with you. But what I've been saying is, listen, we have to select a speaker this week. That's my priority. When I went home and I was asked about this, more than exactly who we were supporting, my constituents wanted to make sure that we go into order. That's why there was so much, again, anger and dissatisfaction around the way that what happened last week. Whether people agreed fully with Speaker McCarthy or not, they know for sure that this wasn't the right move, that this wasn't the right step to take in the times that we were last week, middle of last week, even less over the weekend, that was proven even more, Hugh, of how this is not the time to do this. So we have to select a speaker. We need leadership back because leadership is not being provided by the White House, is not being provided by the Senate. And the House needs to lead on this. If you saw Kevin McCarthy over the weekend, that's what leadership looks like. Those statements, that plan, that action item, those action items, that's what we had as a week ago, and now we don't have, and we are seeking it.
Now, it would require 4 of the 8 members who toppled McCarthy with every Democrat to change their minds. Have any of them indicated they are willing to do so?
You know what? I cannot ever guess what they're going to do. I've been completely, you know, just straight up disappointed in their actions all throughout these 10 months. As a freshman, you come in and you hope the best out of everyone, and you assume that we're all on the same team, and you assume that we're all moving in the same direction, rowing in the same pace. And then, of course, you get sidetracked by these kind of actions that are short-sighted at best, tragic at worst. And so we'll see what they do. They haven't indicated any kind of stopping effort again. Now, you never know until the 0 hour, because they've been given everything before that they've wanted, and still not acted accordingly. So we'll see what they do today.
Yeah, it's irrational, but we have to get to a speaker. Will you stay there, keep voting until somebody gets to 217?
I said we have to. We absolutely have to. We can't leave this place until we have a Speaker of the House elected. It's our duty to do so. We can dwell on how things happen and why it was wrong, and why Speaker McCarthy should be in his position right now. But listen, I am still very cognizant of what happened, and that's going to stay with us forever. There's no way you ever get over that completely. However, we are here right now. We were elected to lead, and we have to select a speaker. This is the time to select a speaker, put leadership back in that chair, and make sure that we move on and we start supporting Israel at the level that it needs it right now, and the rest of the world as well. You'd see now what happens when the world senses a weak America. This is what's happening. So much worse can happen if we don't act quickly.
Well, there are 1,200 dead people in Israel who were murdered at point-blank range by terrorists. We have one carrier group and the second on the way, a very infirm president, and we can't. I just tell me that somebody stood up and didn't speak to either Scalise or Jordan, but just said, I remind everyone in the room, there are 1,200 murdered Israelis and 2 carrier groups on the way, and we don't have a speaker. Did anyone say that last night?
There was definitely a sentiment on that. There was broad support among the conference for Israel, and knowing exactly where we are. I think that has injected a tremendous sense of urgency into selecting a speaker. I have no doubt of that. Whether people were on one camp or the other last night, or whether they were pro or against Kevin McCarthy, I think we do share this sense of urgency on Israel. At least that's from my perspective, from where I'm sitting, and definitely what I'm bringing to the table. No question about that. And we have to act swiftly this week and select a speaker. And then at the same time, as we have this tragic, historic precedent and situation in Israel, our border continues to be wide open in the southern part of the country as well. We are seeing this everywhere, how a weak White House just opens the door for all these things to take place. Weak approach against Iran in the past few months, weak approach on the border, in our own border. These are the consequences of that.
A weak approach from the White House and no approach in the House because it's dysfunctional. And Chuck Schumer in China. Good luck, Congressman Ciscomani. Just remind everyone, we're on the brink of war. They've got to get a speaker, and if they can't agree on Scalise or Jordan, then they ought to just put Kevin McCarthy back. Juan Ciscomani, thank you for joining me. I look forward to talking to you next week. Freshman congressman from Tucson, Arizona. Follow him on Twitter at Juan Ciscomani.